to the Dwarf Kingdom. Just as he had declared, Rigurd had the preparations complete by noon. The selection of those who would journey to the Dwarf Kingdom was meticulous. Heading the group was Rigurd's son, with 5 other hobgoblins, plus myself and Ranga. I was a little worried if it was a good idea to let Rigurd take on a leadership role, but everyone seemed to be on board with it. Rigurd, too, looked invigorated and full of motivation, almost like he'd gotten younger. Maybe I was just worrying too much. With our bags packed, Ranga lowered his back so I could get on. Boing! I sank deep into his fur. I used my sticky thread to anchor myself to his body, wrapping it around the surrounding hair. It was a real pain not having hands and feet in moments like this, but I had to make do with my abilities. Secretly, I had been practicing manipulating my threads. The thought of using threads to slice up enemies, it felt like a romantic ideal. I had no idea if I could actually master it, but the journey was long, so I planned to keep practicing steadily. Our bags contained money and food. We had 3 days' worth of rations. If the journey took longer, we planned to live off the land. We could have brought more non-perishable food, but I wanted to keep our load light. If I swallowed everything, I could carry an endless amount, but I figured I shouldn't spoil them. Since I didn't need to eat, I was able to make a rational judgment about our provisions. As for money, we had 7 silver coins and 24 copper coins. I was pretty sure this wasn't much at all, so I didn't get my hopes up. I decided to figure things out once we arrived. And with that, we departed. The journey north. The Dwarf Kingdom was apparently a 2-month walk for a goblin. We were told to follow the great river Ameld through the forest, which would eventually lead us to a mountain range where the kingdom was located. The Great Connaught Mountain Range lies between the Empire to the east and the various nations surrounding the Great Forest of Jura. Because of this, trade routes were divided into 3. One route went straight through the Great Forest of Jura. Another was a treacherous mountain trail over the mountain range, and the last was a sea route. The route through the Great Forest of Jura was the shortest and safest, but for some reason it wasn't used very often. The steep mountain trail was the most common. The sea route was the least used because of its high cost and the danger of sea monsters. We didn't have any business with the Empire. While we would have headed east through the forest to get there, we were heading north to the Great Connaught Mountain Range instead. We didn't need to climb all the way to the peak. The Dwarf Kingdom's territory lay at the foot of the mountain range, along the upper reaches of the great river Ameld. It was a beautiful city built from a large natural cave within the mountains. That was the Dwarf Kingdom. We proceeded as planned, heading north along the great river Ameld. Since we were following a river, it was impossible to get lost, but I displayed a map in my mind just in case. For a guide, we had a hobgoblin who had gone to the Dwarf Kingdom as a messenger before. He ran ahead to lead the way. The dire wolves, who had evolved into Tempest Star Wolves, were incredibly fast, and they didn't seem to get tired. We had been traveling for about 3 hours without a single break, and they were still running at close to 80 kilometers per hour. They didn't even slow down for bumpy, rocky areas, and they managed all this without making the ride uncomfortable for those of us on their backs. The ride was so comfortable. At this pace, we might not even need a full week to get there. Still, there was no need to rush. While I wanted to get some clothes and a place to live, there was no point in being impatient. "Hey, no need to overdo it," I called out. For some reason, they sped up a little. I had been enjoying the scenery rushing by and the speed, which was faster than a motorcycle, but I was starting to get bored. It was difficult to have a conversation at this speed, but I had thought communication. I figured we might as well enjoy the trip by chatting with everyone. I formed a network of thought with the group. What should I ask about first? Rigurd. By the way, who gave your brother his name? Ha, you don't have to be so formal with me. As for my brother's name, he said he was given it by a passing demon. Oh? A demon came to a goblin village? Yes, it was about 10 years ago, when I was still a child. He stayed in the village for a few days and said my brother had potential. Huh, he must have been a good brother then. Yes, I was so proud of him. That demon, Lord Geld, even said that he wanted my brother to be one of his subordinates one day. So he didn't take him with him? No, my brother was still young. He said he would return in a few years when he was stronger, and then he left on his journey. I see. He'll be surprised to see how much things have changed if he ever comes back now. Indeed. But now I serve you, Lord Ramiro. Even if Lord Geld is part of the glorious Demon Lord's army, I could never follow him now. Demon Lord's army? So that exists. Wait, why are you so confident when he might not even invite you?
Yes, it's not confidence, but certainty. My brother also evolved as a named monster, but he didn't change this much. The difference in evolution is clearly on a different level. I never thought I'd hear the voice of the world in my lifetime. The hobgoblins listening nearby all nodded in agreement. Is that how it works? Giving a name causes an evolution, but the degree of evolution changes depending on the one who gives the name. If I ever have a chance, I should experiment and compare. But a demon lord's army, so it really does exist in this world. Will a demon lord come to attack? If they do, whose side should I be on? I'll think about it when it happens. Fortunately, there are also heroes in this world, and it's common knowledge that heroes are supposed to deal with demon lords. I'm not sure if a hero would still be alive after 300 years, but I'm sure they'll reincarnate or something and be training hard somewhere. I'll make a mental note of it. All right, what's the next topic? Ranga, I'm technically the one who killed your father, right? Are you okay with that? I asked the black wolf, who had grown very attached to me. Honestly, I do have some feelings about it, but victory and defeat in battle are an inevitability for a monster. No matter the fight, I believe that victory is justice. If you lose, there is nothing left. But my master not only spared us, but he also gave us a true name. I am filled with gratitude, not resentment. If you ever want to get revenge, I'll be happy to accept your challenge. Having evolved, I now understand more clearly. In our previous battle, if you had gotten serious, we all would have been annihilated. In that case, we would have scattered without ever achieving our tribe's long-held wish of evolving. Our loyalty belongs to one master and one master alone. What is he talking about? If I had shapeshifted into the black serpent, I might have been able to wipe them all out, but I wouldn't have taken such a dangerous gamble. He's overestimating me. Well, it doesn't hurt if he has the wrong idea. I see. It seems you've grown too. Haha, what a blessing. I just nodded along to his words. Well, I had killed his father. It would be a lie to say he held no resentment. If Ranga ever came to get his revenge on me, I would gladly accept his challenge. It looked like I'd need to get a lot stronger by then. After all, it seemed like he was now as strong as the black serpent was. Arrival. And so, our journey continued with conversation. We proceeded smoothly with no encounters with monsters along the way. We took a 30-minute break every 3 hours and took a 7-hour rest, including sleep, after 14 hours of travel. I asked if they weren't going too fast, but Rigurv replied, "It's fine. Thanks to our evolution, we don't get as tired." And Ranga added, "Don't worry about us, my master. We don't need no sleep, but we don't need a lot of it. We don't need to eat frequently either, so it doesn't get in our way." Everyone else seemed full of motivation. At this rate, it looked like I, who was doing the least, was the one with the least motivation. But since everyone else was motivated, I decided to stick with their pace. We were running for 12 hours a day. These guys had gotten incredibly tough. At the end of the second day, during our pre-sleep meal, I asked the hobgoblin who was guiding us, "By the way, Gobuta, do you know how much further we have?" "Yes, I think we can make it tomorrow. The mountain is looking much bigger now." He seemed flustered, half tense and half happy to be spoken to me. He almost bit his tongue as he responded in a hurry. Now that he mentioned it, the mountain looked a lot bigger. We couldn't even see it yesterday, so we were moving at an incredible speed. That reminded me. By the way, what did you go to the Dwarf Kingdom for? I thought merchants came to you sometimes, I asked. When I asked Rigurd about the Goblin Kingdom, he mentioned that there were merchants from the Kobold tribe. It seemed strange that they would go all the way to the Dwarf Kingdom on a 2-month journey. Yes, the Dwarf tribe pays a high price for magical weapons and armor. They pay us in tools, though. But the merchants bring them to us, so it was a big help. Besides, none of the monsters around the village could use weapons anyway. I see. So they would occasionally go and sell the equipment they took from adventurers. That explains why we hadn't found any decent gear. The kobolds couldn't tell the difference between good and bad equipment, so they went all the way there themselves. Those who get taken down by goblins would probably be greenhorns who got lost in the forest. I didn't think they had anything of value, but for the dwarfs to provide them with tools, dwarves might be a surprisingly kind race. If things went well, we might be able to build a friendly relationship. In fact, I hoped it would work out and that we'd have a good relationship. And so, 3 full days passed since we began our journey. We arrived at the Dwarf Kingdom, a beautiful city built from a large natural cave in the mountain range, located at the foot of the Connaught Mountains, surrounded by grasslands. Dwarves, the armed nation of Dwargon, a natural fortress created by nature.